The sea was a field of iron that April morning, a restless expanse of steel-colored waves folding beneath a ceiling of ash. The North Sea had always been a cruel teacher, but in the spring of 1940 it became a theatre of fate, and upon its stage sailed a small British destroyer whose name would be carved forever into the chronicles of naval courage, HMS Glowworm. She was one of the G-class, light and wiry, a dart among leviathans, built not to endure the punishment of heavy guns but to move with speed, to scout, to strike, to vanish. Her hull, painted in muted wartime grey, bore the scars of endless patrols across unforgiving waters. And leading her was Lieutenant Commander Gerard Roope, a man whose calm composure concealed a heart forged in honour and quiet defiance. The world was tightening into war. Norway's icy fjords had become the prize in a desperate game, Britain and Germany both seeking control. When Glowworm sailed from Scapa Flow on April 6, 1940, her mission was simple: escort a mine-laying force in the Norwegian Sea. But the sea has a cruel sense of irony. That night, storms rose without warning. Wind howled like beasts, waves towered over the deck, smashing against steel with merciless rhythm. Men clung to railings as rain stung like bullets. Then fate whispered its first warning: a cry, a slip, and a sailor vanished into the dark sea. Roope made an impossible choice. Against every rule, he turned back in the storm to search. Hours passed. The ocean gave nothing back. When morning came, Glowworm was alone, separated from her flotilla, a single destroyer adrift in hostile waters. By dawn, the sea had calmed, and cold sunlight broke across the waves. The crew moved quietly, weary but steady, the way sailors always do after surviving the night. Then, a shout: smoke on the horizon. Roope lifted his binoculars. 2 ships, distant shadows through mist. Unknown. Then, the markings became clear: German destroyers. He gave the order calmly: action stations. The destroyer erupted into life. Boots thundered, guns swung toward the enemy, and shells began to roar. For 20 minutes they traded fire, waves bursting high with every impact. Roope's voice cut through the noise, calm as ever. Between salvos, he sent one last radio signal, a warning to the fleet. And then, the German ships vanished into fog. Roope could have turned away, but curiosity, or destiny, drove him forward. He pursued through the mist, and there, emerging like a mountain from the grey, appeared the Admiral Hipper. She was a monster of steel, 8 8-inch guns, heavy armour, towering superstructure, a floating fortress. Against her, the Glowworm was nothing but a knife against a wall. Yet Roope's voice was steady: we'll fight. The first German salvo screamed overhead, a thunderous crash that threw spray and shrapnel across the deck. One shell struck forward, blasting fire through the bow. Men fell, smoke thickened, yet Roope did not falter. Helm hard to port. Fire torpedoes. 5 torpedoes hissed into the water, leaving silver trails across the grey sea. Hipper turned just in time. Every torpedo missed. The destroyer's fate was sealed. Still Roope fought. The ship shook under every impact, deck splintered, engine screamed. Then, with fire pouring from every vent, Roope made his decision. He turned to his men and shouted the words that would echo forever: stand by to ram. The engineers pushed the throttles to full. The destroyer surged forward, every bolt and rivet screaming. The German captain realized too late. Hipper tried to turn, but her massive hull could not swing fast enough. At 30 knots, Glowworm became a spear of vengeance. The collision came like the cracking of the earth. Her bow tore into Hipper's flank, ripping steel and flooding compartments. The shockwave shattered glass and bone alike. The destroyer's front folded inward, boilers bursting. Fire and water mixed in chaos, yet for one brilliant moment, the tiny destroyer had wounded a giant. Roope gave his final order: abandon ship. Flame swallowed the deck, and water rushed in. One by one, men jumped into the freezing sea, the sound of exploding ammunition echoing across the waves. Roope remained on the bridge, helping his wounded, calm until the end. Then, the ship that bore his name and heart rolled beneath the waves, leaving only smoke and memory. For a while, the sea was silent. Debris floated across the grey water: planks, ropes, oil, and lifeless forms. The Admiral Hipper drifted, her engines dead, alarms wailing inside her hull. Captain Helmuth High stood in stunned silence. He had just seen a destroyer, hopelessly outmatched, attack his cruiser with suicidal courage. "Stop engines," he said softly. Lower boats. We will rescue them. His men hesitated. The sea still dangerous, submarines a threat, but he repeated the order. Soon, German sailors rowed through the wreckage, pulling survivors from the freezing water. Some were barely alive, lips blue, eyes blank. One muttered, "We got you though, didn't we?" A German sailor nodded solemnly. "Yes," he said. "You did." Captain Heim moved among the survivors, offering blankets, cigarettes, hot coffee. His face was grave, respectful. "They fought like lions," he told his officers. "They earned our mercy." 40 British sailors were rescued that day. Dozens more were lost. Roope was not among them. High later wrote in his war log, "The enemy commander rammed us deliberately. He must be dead, but if he lives, he deserves the highest honor." His words would echo across nations. When Hipper limped back toward Trondheim, the rescued crew were treated with unexpected kindness. Prisoners, yes, but prisoners honored for their courage. Even the Germans whispered about the Glowworm, the destroyer that defied a cruiser and scarred it forever. Britain, at first, knew nothing. Glowworm was simply missing. Her fate was buried beneath the waves and silence. Only after Germany's defeat in 1945 did Captain High's testimony reach London through neutral hands. It stunned the Admiralty. The story was confirmed by surviving crewmen, each telling the same tale: how Roope had stayed on the bridge, calm and bleeding, steering his ship into the enemy. On July 6, 1945, the London Gazette announced, "For valour in the face of overwhelming odds, the late Lieutenant Commander Gerard Roope, Royal Navy, is awarded the Victoria Cross." It was the first time in history that Britain's highest decoration was recommended by an enemy. News of Roope's bravery spread like wildfire across a weary Britain. Newspapers called him the captain who rammed a giant. His widow received the medal from the king, her eyes glistening but proud. "He was a very brave man," the king said. "He always was," she replied. The name Glowworm became legend. In naval schools across the world, even in post-war Germany, her story was told as a lesson in honor and courage. Captain High himself would later tell young cadets, "The sea does not care whose flag you serve, only how bravely you sail beneath it." Today, the North Sea still keeps a secret. Somewhere beneath its grey waves lies the broken body of HMS Glowworm, resting quietly in the dark. Divers have searched, sonar has whispered traces, but her exact resting place remains uncertain. Perhaps that is how it should be. Some ships do not belong to history books or the ocean floor, they belong to legend. And when the fog drifts low over the cold Norwegian water, and the wind hums through the mist, one could almost imagine a shape moving through the grey, small, defiant, and proud, the Glowworm, racing once more toward a giant, and into immortality.